Shout out to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video.
Hello everyone, my name is Sara, Dietschy rhymes with Peachy. Today we have the beautiful Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio, not to be confused with the Surface Studio, which is their desktop solution. Really cool, the hinges. You have 3 different positions: studio, stage, and just normal laptop. And when I saw this, I actually got really excited because I've always wanted that studio desktop. I just never took the leap. And this is really cool having it in a laptop form factor. When you see it, you're kind of confused. Like, why is there just like 2 bottom chassis? You know, there's one and then there's kind of the lip. And it serves as a really cool place to store your pen. I'm actually a way bigger fan of this opposed to having it on the side of, like, you know, my Dell XPS 2-in-1. And when you see it, it actually does look kind of bulky. When I saw the pictures, I was like, that's weird. But then when I first unboxed it, I was like, oh, this is actually way lighter than I thought. It really has a beautiful form factor and it feels like a MacBook. Let's just say it, you know? I really love the Concept D. It was amazing when it came out. But now that we have the HP version and this really thin solution from Microsoft, you're like, oh wow, yeah, this is a bit much. Of course, it has a bigger display. You have every port under the sun. And then you also have the pen actually built into the computer. Of course, it's smaller. It's not the best experience compared to the new Studio Pen. I mean, this really feels great. What is the point of this stage mode? Covering up the keyboard, you can't type, what can you do? So in a lot of the literature, they had this form factor showing people gaming, watching Netflix, but honestly, a lot of that, even if you're using an Xbox controller, you're gonna want access to the keyboard. And even when you're watching content, you want access to the keyboard. I will say, as an avid note taker, 2-in-1s have been amazing computers for me, but really if I wanna write notes, they're always in the completely flipped orientation, or, you know, it's up like a laptop and I'm holding the screen and writing notes. So what I found actually with having magnets here, you know, the screen doesn't move back, is actually extremely handy for note taking and for people who draw. I will say, I wish there was a way to just like forget about the trackpad and have it like right here, have magnets right here, because that would be the best angle for me. But it's really nice to have somewhat of an angled solution for writing notes or drawing, and this display is not going anywhere. So that's cool, but again, this would be just the perfect, which it still actually kind of works. I mean, there's flex, but just like any 2-in-1s, then I would kind of just rest my hand here, draw. And you know, this slim pen too does have a lot of cool haptics things going on. When you're drawing, you have a little bit of vibration at the tip of the pen. They say it simulates basically, oh, people don't like how I say that word. Simulates, I say simulates. They say it should simulate, I hate that word, I hate it. Okay. They say it should remind you of what it feels like having a pencil to paper. Honestly, it just kind of feels like your pen's vibrating, which is not the same as pencil to paper. So you do have a lot of great settings within this pen app. They have updated it recently. You have, you know, these different shortcuts. You can press on the top button. For me, that launches OneNote because that's my favorite note-taking solution. I'm a really big fan of OneNote. And then you also have a button down here that can launch different things for you as well. Right now I have it mapped to, oh, actually the selection tool. I thought it was the eraser. Select, and then you can move things around. Maybe the eraser, yeah, that's cool. So I can erase with the end of the pen. And it doesn't have a 180-degree hinge, which I'm like, ah. Okay, a few more things about the actual laptop. Whoa, oh God, okay. The Surface Laptop Studio is designed to replace the Surface Book in their line, which I'm a fan of, because the Surface Book always had great potential. You know, it was a tablet, it was a laptop, it was all of these things. But the fact that you could remove the display and there was components in the display, there was components in the keyboard, if you couldn't successfully connect the display back, it was just a terrible interruption of flow. And that would happen all the time. Even when you didn't want to remove the display, your display would just randomly eject, and then that completely ruins your just normal laptop experience when you're in the middle of editing a video, editing a photo, writing a document, whatever. It was just never executed in the way that it should have. So this, I welcome in full force. The fact that it's like a sexy version of the Acer Concept D, I approve of. So a few more things about the physicality of this because, well, I could talk about it all day and then we'll get into performance, okay guys? The keyboard is really great. I like it a lot. The action is great. It was comfortable within the first moment that I was typing on it. But the star of the show here is this trackpad. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's really amazing. It's like a smaller version of what's on MacBooks. Again, this is kind of like Microsoft taking everything great about MacBooks and then innovating on the form factor, right? So this trackpad is super comfortable. When you click on things, you instantly get the feedback and you'll be able to adjust how much feedback that you want and need. What's super disappointing is the port situation. Obviously, they are targeting creators. They are targeting professionals with this laptop. It's starting at $15.99, but at $15.99, you don't even get a dedicated GPU. So you're gonna have to go up if you want those i7 options, 32 gigs of RAM, 1-2 terabytes of SSD storage. So it'll get pretty pricey pretty quick, but then you only have 2 USB-Cs. Now granted, these are Thunderbolt 4, which is really great. You're gonna get like 40 gigabytes per second of transfer speed, so you can connect really high-end displays, docks, all of the things. And I guess what is good is you have this Surface port. This is used for charging. On the MacBook 13-inch, one USB would always be taken for charging, and then you only have one for your dongle or whatever else you want to connect to it. So I guess it is nice that they have, you know, a separate port for the charger, so you have 2 USB-Cs open, and then you have a headphone jack. But I would have just loved to seen at least an SD card slot. I know it's pushing it for me to ask for also a USB Type A port. You might call me a grandma asking for that, but I'm always using them, okay? The music on that montage was pretty fire, right? Well, shout out to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video, which it's such an honor because I use Epidemic Sound all the time for my YouTube videos. It doesn't matter if it's a talking video and I need some chill hip hop, or if it's a really powerful video and I really need to get that epicness across. They have so many amazing playlists to get I don't want to say fire again, but to get an amazing song super quick. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to find a song for your next YouTube video. It is royalty-free music, so you don't have to worry about YouTube copyright ID or whatever it's called claiming your entire video. This allows you to monetize your videos without worrying about copyrights. It is a one-time monthly fee, and you have their entire selection to, well, select from. And it's super fun because I made my own album where you can check out all of my favorite songs that I use for YouTube videos. There's a great variety. I really like lo-fi hip hop. I love jazz, and I love just like punching you in the face EDM. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but I think that covers a lot of the basis. I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to music, but hey, Epidemic Sound has me covered. I've been a huge fan of Epidemic Sound for a while, so thank you so much for sponsoring this video, but more importantly, if you want access to amazing royalty-free music, you can check out my affiliate link down in the description below. All right, so some hot takes after using this for a much longer period of time. The finish is really great, and it hides fingerprints like surprisingly well for some reason. I don't know how they do this, because even the MacBook Pros show fingerprints if you get, you know, the silver version of it. But I will say I have these like little scratches from being in my backpack. I don't know if you can tell other tech rubbing against it. So it's like fingerprints don't show at all. Don't know how they're doing that, but little micro scratches. Not fun. And I will say the build quality just feels so much better from previous iterations of, well, not this laptop since this is brand new, but since this is, you know, replacing the Surface Book. The Surface Book was just so sketchy. It just always disconnected. It never felt solid. And this feels so solid. Like, yes, Microsoft, I love it. The only little caveat that I didn't even notice until I started using it more was the actual part of the display that does the little swivel, right? That part is actually misaligned in my unit. I don't know if it's unique to me, but I'll get a close-up shot of this. Basically, the top panel is a little bit to the right, so the edges aren't exactly straight. Now, we're talking millimeters, right? So I don't think it's going to affect your life that much, and I can't imagine manufacturing all of these devices and making sure they're perfect, but it's just like, oh, we were so close to perfection. And for a device so sleek, I wish that wasn't a thing. And this rubber insert in between is a little uneven. So the look, I don't know if it's just because I used it more as my backpack, the look of that actual part of the display is not perfect. The actual display is really nice, and the 3:2 ratio I know is a huge thing for writers, programmers. I really don't think laptops should be made with 16:9 displays like anymore. Like, get out of here. The rounded edges on the actual design of the laptop is beautiful on the outside, but the fact that they kept the rounded edges on the actual display honestly tripped me out when I'm using it. Can I just have a normal rectangular display? I think that's what we're all used to. It doesn't make sense in my brain to have that. It's kind of annoying. I don't know. If you're an illustrator, if you're an artist and you're over in Mac land, usually you'll have an iPad for drawing, you go in Procreate, you know, you use those apps, some Adobe Fresno or Gemini, or what is it called? I have the beta names always in my head, and then I forgot actually what they're called. So that's a workflow with that. And then maybe you have a MacBook Pro or an iMac at home. Usually the iPad has a computer for a companion to do the video editing, or to just have a computer. You know, an iPad is still not a computer as much as you try. Some people can pull it off, some people. And I think that's one of the benefits over in Windows land, is that you can really, truly get all in one. If you're not a video editor and you don't need a dedicated GPU, you could always go for, you know, these classic 2-in-1s. The Dell XPS is one of my favorites. You know, if I was a student, this is totally what I would go for, because, you know, it's great for writing notes. It has the pen, you can snap it to the side, which honestly isn't the best. Also with the iPad on the side, you know, of course it's charging, but the moment you throw it into a backpack, you lose it. This magnet is so strong. It is not going anywhere. So you can throw this in a backpack, you can carry it around. It's not falling. It's going to charge in place. What was I saying though? Oh yeah. So over in Windows land, you have those options of a 2-in-1, or maybe you can go for, you know, a Concept D, the Acer computer, and you can really have a desktop, a tablet, all of those things in one. However, that Concept D is really big, right? And it's just so heavy. And it's interesting because now you have that all-in-one setup where you can do gaming, video editing, things I wouldn't recommend, you know, on maybe some of these 2-in-1s that are below $1,000 with their SKUs. It's just interesting because Windows really truly has an all-in-one laptop now that isn't huge and hard to bring around. I personally usually play Halo, but I wanted to download a 120 frames per second game, Dirt 5, and this is honestly the only racing game that I am actually decent at. So it looks great. The most surprising part is just the speakers. Like, the speakers sound great and they don't get rattly or just, you know, terrible at high volumes, which is very good.
Nolan, you're gonna need them. With rough circuits filled with tight turns.
Whenever you put the Xbox controller in Bluetooth pairing mode, it just pops up. Again, I love Windows 11 and how it automatically pairs things to Bluetooth, so there was minimal lag, and it was just, you know, a good experience overall. It's a great display, but oh my gosh, it is so glossy. Like, reflections on it are actually kind of insane. When it comes to video editing, it was honestly like a little disappointing. I've edited a few different videos with this laptop, and I will say in Resolve, there's a huge difference when the laptop is plugged in versus not plugged in. You know, when it's not plugged in, it can't utilize the full power of the dedicated graphics card. And Windows 11 actually makes it more difficult to switch in between performance modes. When I first started editing, the power settings were in recommended, so the fans didn't kick on full force, so I wasn't getting the best performance possible. So you kind of have to go into these settings. You used to be able to change it from the toolbar. Now you have to go deeper into the settings to change to full, you know, high performance, and that's obviously what you want with video editing. So with a laptop plugged in and high performance selected, it did better in Resolve. With actually scrubbing through this A7S III 4K 10-bit 420 footage, it actually did much better scrubbing and just playing back footage and all-around experience actually in Premiere.
All right, today we just had a major Apple event where they released the new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros, and guess what? The ports are back.
instead of Resolve, which is kind of a bummer for me since I'm in Resolve, but that performance isn't consistent with what I was experiencing over with the MSI Creator Z16 laptop that I showed off recently, and those are similar specs, and the MSI just perform so much better for some reason when video editing. Let me specify when video editing. So when I went to export this Apple event video that I edited on the laptop, it's a 9-minute and 20-second video. It exported in 8 minutes and 46 seconds in Resolve and 7 minutes and 13 in Premiere. So it was kind of faster all around in Premiere with the studio. I had a great experience with Premiere in this computer. When editing though, some actual trackpad issues stand out. Sometimes you click it and it just doesn't select things. This is something that I had major issues with on the new Dell XPS 17. It's not as bad as a Dell XPS, but I would literally be selecting things in Resolve and Premiere and they just wouldn't be selecting, they wouldn't be grabbing the clips, and it was super frustrating. I turned up the sensitivity on the trackpad. Remind you, this trackpad is great. When I was just scrolling and working and doing all of the things, it felt so great, but then a huge flaw was highlighted when I was clicking away in video editing, and sometimes it just wouldn't select things when you hard press on the trackpad. Like, super disappointing. So yeah, let me know what you think. And a big feature was the 120 hertz display. And in laptops, it's kind of hard, I feel like, to tell the difference with Windows 11. Maybe, I don't know, it doesn't utilize it as much, but you know, on the new iPhone Pro, that 120 hertz display, like, wow, those animations, no matter what app you're in, you can tell the difference. Android devices, we've had 120 hertz on them for a while. It's snappy, right? I think for my needs in a laptop, 120 hertz, you know, isn't necessary, but it's a nice to have for some people. I know Gears 5, that does 120 hertz, Forza, there's a lot of car games, so if that gaming component is important to you to have 120 hertz, well, this has it. Okay, let me know what you thought of this device. Does this fit into your workflow? Is it too expensive? Because if I'm gonna be honest, if you just need a 2-in-1 and a dedicated GPU isn't that important, go with a Dell XPS, go with an HP Spectre. The price tag starts at a much more reasonable start. I think this is really valuable once you go up in the specs, you know, the i7, dedicated NVIDIA, GPU. Yeah, so that's what I think. Let me know what you think. Like this video if you digged it, hit that subscribe button, and I guess the only thing left to do is to, well, stay peachy. Okay, bye. Oh, also make sure to check out my Epidemic sound link in the description below for all of the amazing songs that I use in my videos. Okay, bye.